What's up, ladies and gents, Nola here, and welcome to another weapon review. This one is for a weapon in the DLC, the barbecue pack, and it is of course the Stakeout 12 gauge, also known as the AA12. It's this monster spinning around right here, and as you know, I don't review every weapon. Some are just not worth reviewing. You'll try it out yourself and think, this is decidedly average, or this isn't particularly strong at all. But the Stakeout definitely needs a review, because I made a bold statement and said this might be the best weapon in the game. With further testing, there are a couple of caveats with the weapon, but I still think it's incredibly powerful, and we're going to get onto why. We'll see some gameplay with it, and hopefully I can convert you all to the Stakeout ways. Now, of course, this is a DLC weapon, so it costs money, which has always seemed like a shame when they add the best weapons in the DLCs, but at the very least, it does comfort me to tell you that the barbecue pack is incredible in many different ways. It's got a lot with it, and it's more than likely the most worthwhile DLC added to the game in a long time, if not at all. So let's move on to this weapon's modifications. Ammunition-wise, I don't recommend any of this, to be perfectly honest. A lot of it will, first of all, ruin its ammo count, which is hugely important. And it's just not going to add enough to the weapon that it's going to be worthwhile, if you ask me. Potentially triple O buckshot, but I don't feel like it's going to put you over any sort of damage thresholds. Again, Dragon's Breath, it's cool, but I don't find myself utilizing it to the same extent. And I'm under the impression that Dragon's Breath does not seem to get the headshot multipliers, which is so important when using the Stakeout 12 gauge. The long barrel is, for me, the only barrel I would use. The suppressed one got a bit of application, but you're never going to get this thing to a low enough concealment for it to be worthwhile in a stealth build, and that's something I'll come on to later as to why maybe this weapon isn't the strongest in the game. The shark teeth nozzle is the way I go with the barrel exit. I do feel like pumping as much damage into this thing as possible is worthwhile. I can, of course, afford to lose the accuracy. I honestly think certain shotguns are better with low accuracy, and I feel like this one might be one of them, just because it helps me hit those range shots for whatever reason. I'm under the impression that the way the shotgun headshot multiplier works is all you need is at least one pellet to hit them in the head, and you'll hit that multiplier. Your likelihood of that happening increases, essentially, the wider your spread is. So that's my thinking with that. Customization-wise, you can go with either of these, obviously. It's a fully automatic weapon as standard. I'm actually going to buy the auto fire right now. I don't know why that wasn't on my weapon previously. Gadget. I don't really care for the gadgets personally. I don't find myself using the laser capabilities really on anything other than the minigun. But the LED combo is obviously the way I would choose to go. Now here's the most important attachment on the whole thing, and the drum mag. It's unparalleled, really. 12 magazine size. That puts you up from 8 to 20. For a fully auto weapon, this feels necessary. It's incredibly strong. Now, you're going to drop 4 points of concealment, which is quite a lot. And this is where I'm going to come on to where I think this weapon struggles, and this is such a minor detail, but I was thinking about it as a Deathwish weapon, which it certainly is. As a weapon, it suits Deathwish. It will tear through enemy cop waves. But by far, in my opinion, the best Deathwish build is one that revolves around maximizing your dodge potential. So that means getting your concealment to at least 25. Which, sadly, with this weapon, you're going to struggle to do in the first place. And if you use the drum mag, your chances are non-existent. But I don't think I could make an argument for not using the drum mag. The only thing I could say is if you maybe used fully aced out mag plus instead of the drum mag, and that would give you 23 in the magazine, which is almost just as good. But I feel it's just much easier rather than sinking, 12 points all the way at the top of the technician skill tree to bring the drum mag along. And of course, you can still use mag plus. I'll talk about this in useful skills and perks later on, but it's still a decent option if you just want to spray this thing into crowds. Finally, sight-wise, I actually really like the iron sights. I'm sure you could go for any of these, grab another couple of points of stability, but I'm not particularly concerned, and I choose to go with those pretty comfortable iron sights. Now, we're going to move on to the weapon statistics, but I'm going to show you some gameplay at the same time so you can see exactly how this is working. Okay, let's get a little deeper into this weapon's stats, because at first glance, they don't look too impressive. Just take a look here at the base stats. We got 8 in the mag size, 64 at the total ammo, 300 as the standard and only rate of fire, only 38 for damage, which is pretty poor for a shotgun, 12 accuracy, 17 stability, 9 concealment, which looks like it might not be too bad and can probably be multiplied up, but sadly can't really, and then finally threat, which I've always felt is a pretty non-important stat, but that's sitting at 28 right there. Now, then you take a look at my modified version with my skills in as well, and you'll see we get ammo going up from 8 to 25. That is such a big jump, especially for a shotgun. That would be a big jump for an assault rifle, but for a shotgun, that's unbelievable. We can go even higher once I'm at level 100. I'm actually at 94 as I record this. We can go even higher to 35, as I think I mentioned previously. Of course, again, with the fully loaded skill, just not aced out, just basic, we get 80 ammo instead of 64, which makes a huge difference. Rate of fire, as I said, is standard. And then we have a look at damage. Damage is a difficult number. Now, 38 is really quite low, but do keep in mind, even 38 is going to one-shot certain enemies as long as you're working that headshot multiplier. But I'll be honest, it really isn't high enough. You do need some mods and skills with it. Now, with just my mods alone, I have 7. That puts me at 45. Now, let me tell you a story, because I was actually practicing with this weapon beforehand, trying to get some good footage for it, and I thought, this is more underwhelming than I originally thought. It's still not bad. It's probably a top 5 weapon, but it's really not as strong as it was yesterday. Maybe they've patched it down. And then I realized I was not using any shotgun skills. It struck me, and then I was like, oh, what happens if I put some shotgun skills on it? Oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. So I was rocking out 45 damage. Now I've got 63, and it does make a huge difference. Keep in mind just how important shotgun skills are. 63 is going to be a one-shot headshot to the vast majority of enemies on overkill. But moreover, the second you shoot the first green, remember they're going to have about 130 health. That's going to be a one-shot headshot. You're going to unlock the full potential through the overkill skill, which is going to multiply your shotgun damage by 75%. Remember, your shotgun damage is already multiplied, I believe, by 35 previously back in the shotgun skills, so this is how your damage hits ridiculously high numbers. That, coupled with a headshot, is going to one-shot everything bar bulldozers on overkill difficulty. Moving it up to Death Wish, it's still going to do ludicrous damage, but there's a couple of things I've thought about. Now, I know I just previously recorded a clip suggesting don't use any special ammo type, but if you use the triple O buckshot, you actually don't just get 7 additional damage thanks to your multipliers, you're going to get 14 additional damage. That's going to put you up to 67 damage overall. It's going to make your headshot multipliers, your overkill multipliers, all the higher. So on Death Wish, I may consider the use of triple O buckshot, even though that's going to cut your ammo down in size to around about 58, I believe, which isn't great, but it's not too bad. It's definitely workable. Now, looking at the other stats, now we've determined that damage is pretty damn good. In fact, let's just, before I move on from that, let's compare it with the Jocelyn's. Now, I'm not going to put this up on screen, but I can tell you the Jocelyn's is as standard, 200, not as standard, with shotgun skills, is 223. That's a one-shot to every basic enemy in the game, essentially. Even more so if you hit the head. Thinking about it, what's the difference between the Stakeout? That headshot's also basically going to be a one-shot kill to every enemy in the game. Isn't that 200 and something, just dead damage? It's not if you're hitting the body, but let's be honest, we love to see helmets fly. And as such, the headshot's the only thing I really aim for. And that's why I find the Stakeout is so strong for accomplished and accurate players. Now, really, for a weapon to be the most powerful, it needs to be good at all difficulties. But the Stakeout still has that spam factor that even a bad player with bad accuracy can work around. They can hold down that button and they can still tear through crowds without even thinking about it. So the Stakeout's still a noob-friendly weapon as well, but if you're accurate, if you're able to hit those headshots, then you have nothing to worry about. Now, moving on to the accuracy and stability. The stability is great. I love to see that sort of stability. It's one of the highest you can get on a shotgun. And accuracy, as I've already mentioned, I love my spread to be as wide as possible. I believe accuracy is the skill determining that, so I recommend you drop that accuracy down reasonably low. You still keep that accurate shot over range with around about 10, but you're going to have greater spread up sort of medium range conflict, and you're able to hit those headshots that much easier, I have felt. And that's exactly the same way I've treated the Jocelyn shotgun we got with Bonnie. As I've already said, concealment's the main disappointing factor on this weapon. You can't get high concealment, you can't get your full dodge build. You can still run it with Rogue, but that I find is not enough dodge for Deathwish. Therefore, you're going to have to run a tank Deathwish build, which in many ways is not as powerful, especially on the new missions where they've added turrets. The SWAT van turrets are going to tear you apart, and as such, I find that the only weakness with this weapon is the fact that you cannot customize a build around it and high concealment, and of course, dodge. Which is a problem, I will be honest. But looking at this weapon in isolation, it's so strong for Deathwish. It does everything you want a Deathwish weapon to do. Of course, it's not got the same sort of utility as the RPG, the GL40, the Piglet grenade launcher. But it is just that standard weapon that you're never going to find yourself swapping out. And when you do, when you walk into a bulldozer, you swap into your explosive rounds or your RPG, that's going to be an easy kill, and you can rely on the Stakeout for every other engagement. And that's how I feel about this weapon in general. Moving on to more in-game combat situations, you can still see the sort of range I'm picking up kills from. It's absolutely ludicrous. And it's also not a bad weapon against specials. I have to admit, tasers do throw me off, but if you can hit that one-shot headshot, they will die. I believe on Deathwish it's not a one-shot, and you're going to have to work them down a little harder, so tasers probably are the special you're going to struggle with the most. But even bulldozers, this thing shoots so fast, and it is so strong at close range that you're going to tear through the bulldozer's shield and get to that headshot immediately, and that headshot's going to be a two-shot kill on basically every bulldozer that I can think of. So, again, Stakeout comes through using those ridiculous headshot multipliers as most shotguns can. And as I've already said, you can use any sort of powerful secondary with frag rounds to do that job even better. And the Stakeout can just be used as a standard SWAT killer. Now, you'll see in this gameplay that I'm getting double the kills of lots of my teammates in these games. In fact, in one game I was positive I was playing with some guy with a pretty optimized build, and he was getting a lot of kills, and I still managed to outscore him with this weapon. So for that reason, I feel like it really may be the best weapon in the game. Now, we've looked at all the stats. I am again going to take a little look at the gameplay myself and try and show you a couple of good gameplay situations to use it in. So let's move on to that. Okay, so in this first clip, you're going to see a little bit of Deathwish difficulty, exactly how it stands up, and you'll see that it is taking quite a few more shots to take down tasers, but moving into rooms full of enemies, it has no issue tearing them all apart. Now, the one thing that's really letting me down here, as you'll see, is I'm not that high a level, and as such, I don't have particularly great armor, so I get taken down quite easily. But even so, the shotgun tears through the enemies at the exact same speed that they're able to do me, which is quite impressive on Deathwish difficulty. But you do, of course, see the issue that this carries in that you have to run armor on it, really, to be effective on Deathwish, which is, if you ask me, the least optimal way of using it. But there's a couple of things I actually forgot to mention. I did mention in my first impressions video, but first of all, the things ammo pickup, I did mention this very briefly, is incredibly good. You want to maximize as much ammo you can possibly carry, simply because you're going to be picking up 2, 3, 4 per enemy, and let's be honest, most enemies are a 1, 2, or 3 shot kill, so it's economically as efficient as the locomotive, I would say, and that's without any additional skills. That's just using the perk deck bonus, as opposed to having fully loaded aced out. And there's another example where I can whip out my secondary, which I can basically choose any secondary because I can get all my kills with my primary of choice. And yeah, the RPG comes out and that's an easy bulldozer kill. So we don't even have to think about how good this weapon is against bulldozers. It's as simple as that. So the other thing that I forgot to mention is reload speed. And this is why I was thinking maybe 8 rounds in the mag isn't too bad. It is really, because you want to be able to spray into rooms without having to think about reloading. But you're looking at under a 2-second reload time, and I believe a 2.5 second reload time when you've emptied the entire clip, which, let me tell you, never really happens. So yeah, I believe it's 1.5 you're seeing there, thanks to Hoxhood. And you can just see how well it stands up on the Deathwish difficulty in this gameplay. There are no issues with it at all, and even though my build isn't optimal, my shotgun most certainly is. Moving on to the next little bit of gameplay, you're going to see a very good combat situation for it. First of all, you'll see me tear through that bulldozer. Admittedly, that was without him having a shield, but there was a clip at some point in this video, it may be coming later on, or it may have been already, where you'll see I just walk straight up into a bulldozer's grill and basically stun lock him with my goddamn damage. You don't even need explosive frag rounds when you've got this weapon, but you'll see as the wave drops down, what I'm actually going to do is stand in this incredibly powerful spot at the top of the director of the FBI's office, and I'm going to take out these enemies. This is the perfect range for the shotgun. Up close and personal, I find myself occasionally missing shots, but here, medium range, that's no problem, and you can easily kill them from the safety up here and get damage multipliers in abundance. And look at that one-shot kill, and that was without overkill. I have played Payday for a very long time now, and all I want to do with my life is make helmets fly. I'll be honest, I play loud most of the time, and headshots are just the most satisfying thing. Somehow, Payday managed to make the most satisfying headshots ever. But you can see the range this weapon is functional at. Once I get overkill, my damage multiplier is up there, and I'm easily able to one-shot from any sort of range. And because my accuracy is that little bit lower, I don't even have to be perfectly on point. I know that sounds a bit backwards, but that is how it works with shotguns most of the time. Taser appears behind me. That's where you can see tasers can be slightly more of an issue. You're not able to get that headshot multiplier because the base damage is a little bit lower. They are going to be a bit of a pain, but you're going to easily manage to stun them out with the barrage of fire coming from the weapon. And then you can see I jump down. I've not been collecting ammo, but because the ammo capacity on this thing is already really good, I'm able to jump down here and easily refill most of what I fired in that last engagement. So those are the two engagements I wanted to really show off. As ever, this is a shotgun without frag rounds or without. I feel like Dragon Breath retains its range really well. So you're not gonna be able to snipe out snipers with this shotgun, but it's still functional at medium to pretty long ranges. I'd say its range is quite akin to the sort of Gruber-Kurtz pistol, which I've been using a lot in my last Infamy level. So that's it for the weapon. I'm going to come back right at the end of the gameplay to give it my final verdict. But I want to ask you guys how you're doing with Infamy ranks. Did you enjoy the month of March? Did you enjoy your double experience? It's coming to a close very soon. And what Infamy rank did you all get to? And also, have you picked up the barbecue pack after my advice suggesting that it's probably the best DLC? That's what I want to hear. What do you think of the barbecue pack? Do you think it's fair that they can put such great stuff in DLC and not in free updates? It's kind of a paradox there, if you ask me. You know, you want the best stuff in the DLC simply because the DLC has to be worth it. But to a similar extent, if someone can't afford the DLC, they're missing out even more. I'd love to know your opinions on those sorts of things. But there, again, you can see the crazy range on this shotgun. And so, bringing it all back and wrapping up the Stakeout 12 gauge. I've given some crazy high scores to shotguns in the past. I believe I gave the Locomotive 12G a 9.5. I may have given it a 10. Some people don't understand why I think the Locomotive is so amazing. But I really do. I really think the Locomotive is basically unparalleled. And it's a secondary weapon as well, which is an advantage in and of itself. But now they've got RPGs in the secondary weapon slot, I'm starting to think that less and less. If you ask me, the Stakeout 12G is the perfect Locomotive substitution to put in everyone's lockers. I know everyone loves the Judge as well, but I really feel like the Locomotive outshines that shotgun as well. And so as such, the AA-12 is getting my, first of all, thumbs up, seal of approval, as being one of the top 5 or 10 weapons in the game. But beyond that, I feel this one's really something special. I feel like this is, right now, the best weapon in the game. We did some huge restructures to the skill and weapon system to see something otherwise in the future. And, yeah, I think this may be the first weapon. I don't know whether it is, but if it is, I retract any previous 10 out of 10s I've made before, and I'm going to slap this one with a 10 out of 10. There's so many pros, I can barely even talk about them. The single negative that I can really think of with this weapon is the low concealment issue. You're not going to be able to get down to those great dodge figures, and as such you're going to have to run tank builds, which I've already mentioned are a little weaker on the Death Wish difficulty, but I'm pretty sure the Stakeout's worth it for everybody. So again guys, if you're interested in picking this up, it is found within the Barbecue Sizzling pack. Do think about it, but of course, This isn't the only reason to pick that up. The flamethrower is a load of fun. The piglet is another fantastic grenade launcher, right up there with the GL40. But I do recommend you take a look at this shotgun and see whether it sways your decision on whether to purchase the DLC or not, because I don't think I could be any more vocal about how impressed I am with this DLC from Overkill. And again, I feel like it's a shame that we're not getting at least one of these weapons for free so everyone has access to it, because I see people going, what weapon's that? That's not fair. How are you getting 150 kills and next best in the lobby is getting 50? Well, Stakeout 12 gauge, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. See you all in the next one.